When it comes to the Kings, it's my favorite show. Do it for Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Do it for Deuce and Mo. When it comes to the Kings, big hopes and dreams as we cover our Kings. Never cover the kingdom, but we loving our Kings. And we covered your prayers as we doing our thing. Big Deuce with the par, Lil Mo on the screen. Solo or together, still do it for team. Never switch up for $1 or revenue stream. So we always got each other, balance out the beam. Deuce and Mo,
and that's the end of the theme song.
Do it for Deuce and Mo.
We are live! Happy Wednesday, just 8 days away. 8 days away from the NBA draft. A night that I'm sure will bring us all together as Kings fans.
You think?
No, are you kidding?
Why?
Because no one knows what they want. What's going on, everybody? How we doing?
Deuce.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Sorry.
Hey, Morgan.
Hey.
I'm rooting for y'all.
Yes, I can't wait.
Let's go, Kane.
I just didn't want to have headphones on earlier.
What?
Well, because I thought people would want to see my haircut. It's something you guys like to do every month, so we'll just go ahead and do it now. Yes, I got cleaned up a little bit, so we'll take this moment, a brief moment for you, because you guys want it, so you guys could take a look at my haircut. All right, come down in 3, 2, 1. Spin. spin. See that? You see that, Mo?
Yeah, your tag's sticking out.
I'm stuck.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, give them a wink. Send them off with a wink.
I did it for you guys. I did it for you. This is not about me. It's about you guys.
You guys, it's his new look. It sounds like he's not going to grow it out, so.
Oh, man. Colin says, Deuce, no sick hat today? I'm a little disappointed. Hey, we got to mix it up every once in a while. Thanks so much for being with us today. Let's have some fun. We got a big show today, talking a lot of NBA draft. Some stuff that came out today regarding the Kings from Jonathan Givony over at ESPN. And Bryant West, the Kings Herald's NBA draft analyst, will be with us live today on the Deuce and Mo podcast. Hell, he's already in the chat getting ready for his appearance. He's in the green room right now. We'll bring him in
the green
in a
room.
little bit. All right. So let's get started.
Oh, you know what time it is.
Give me a hell yeah.
Deuce and Mo podcast coming down in 3, 2. Stop. No, I'm not doing this. You guys need to hit the thumbs up button before I start this podcast. 27 thumbs up? That number needs to go up. It's not because it makes me feel good. Tell them it doesn't. It's not about making me feel good.
It doesn't make him feel good.
Tell them it's about
the only thing that makes him feel good is when you're talking about his hair 24/7. That's the only thing that makes him feel good. But the thumbs up actually help the algorithms and helps this content, this podcast, reach more NBA fans. So
What's it cost to give a thumbs up, Morgan?
It's free, bitch.
To just hit the button?
Do you like that? Yeah. Hit that thumbs up. I don't know why we're so amped today. It's a Wednesday and we talking draft.
It's 8 days away. I'm getting jacked. Coming down. 3, 2, 1. Hit my music.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.
Welcome into the Deuce and Mo podcast. 8 days away from the NBA draft, and we're starting to get some juiciness out with some of the reports out of the NBA draft with ESPN's Jonathan Givony. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to dive deep into some of these prospects with the Kings Herald's NBA draft analyst, Bryant West. I'm Deuce Mason. That's Morgan Reagan. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing fantastic on this Wednesday morning. I am.
What was the hesitation? What was that? You just said you're doing fantastic. What's the hesitation? What?
I almost said it was 1 week away, but we're 8 days away.
Yeah.
And I think you've repeated that 700 times, so I didn't want to get it wrong. I'm like a scared puppy right now. Like, don't want to cough into the mic wrong. Don't want to get the days wrong. It's all about Deuce. Deuce's hair, Deuce's podcast, the Deuce podcast, everyone.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay.
When did we start the countdown? Was it with like 30 days ago?
You
32
started
days?
it like day 24.
362 days away from the NBA draft.
Wow.
So we're still searching for any type of idea of what direction the Kings may go in this draft. But ESPN.com did have a report today.
Oh.
Yeah, Jonathan Givony, formerly of Draft Express, now with ESPN, put out his latest mock draft. And with the 4th pick, he did have the Sacramento Kings selected Keegan. See, I messed up. I messed up because you were talking about messing up. I messed up.
I was not talking about messing up at all.
You're talking about how you almost said 7 days away, and you said...
Yeah, but that's not messing up a name. How did you like butcher that name? Like, that's really bad. You were just saying an entirely different human being in that position. So how about you try that again? Thank you.
Rewind, if you don't mind.
Actually, take away your thumbs up if you want. I get it.
Do not do that. With the 4th pick, Jonathan Givony says the Kings will be drafting Jaden Ivey.
There we go.
But his explainer was pretty interesting. He says the Kings aren't Ivy's preferred destination, but have proved willing to take players without the benefit of workouts and medical information in the past, doing so as recently as last year with Davion Mitchell. Many around the NBA feel this pick is available for a team looking to swap picks and move up the draft for Ivy. Detroit, Indiana, Oklahoma City are among those that could potentially exchange an asset to help the Kings' chances of contending for a playoff spot with the likes of, Jeremy Grant, Miles Turner, and Lou Dort, a few potential options that rival teams point to. In the event that the Kings elect to hold on to this pick and prefer to avoid the drama associated with picking a player against his camp's will, the candidacy of Keegan Murray might be gaining steam with head coach-to-be Mike Brown. Owner Vivek Ranadive is also said to be a proponent of selecting him. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we try to translate some of this?
Break it down.
Ivy's preferred destination, not Sacramento. Okay. We'll separate that.
Okay.
The next thing that jumped out to me is when he rattled off some of the names they could be interested in. Oh, Jeremy Grant, Miles Turner, Lou Dort, a few potential options that rival teams point to. So some rival teams like, yeah, maybe they could Lou Dort, Miles Turner, I don't know, maybe Jeremy Grant. This line kills me. In the event the Kings elect to hold on to this pick and prefer to avoid the drama associated with picking a player against his camp's will. Okay, couple of things. This is garbage. This is garbage. Even if Jaden Ivey's camp doesn't want him in Sacramento, Jaden Ivey is represented by CAA, huge agency in the sports world. And ironically enough, the same agency that represents Tyrese Halliburton. Eric Mintz is the guy. He represents Jaden Ivey too. So I'm not necessarily surprised that he would prefer his client not to be in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But do you think that's going to scare Sacramento away? Like, what drama is going to come if Sacramento selects Jaden Ivey? Is Jaden Ivey not going to show up? Is he not going to play next year? Like, I don't totally understand that. I remember last year on draft night when the Kings selected Davion Mitchell, and he was surprised by it.
He didn't look happy.
Right.
And I remember all of us being like, what? But not a lot of people knew much about Davion Mitchell, his personality, and what he was about at that time. But yeah, didn't look that happy. And again, it didn't matter if they weren't happy. It didn't matter if they don't want to go, because if you get drafted and you have to play your rookie year, then you have to play.
Then this line, Murray might be gaining steam with head coach to be Mike Brown. What does that mean? He might be. Am I looking too much into this? Is it because the draft's 8 days away? I'm searching here, but what is it? He might be. So he might not be? Or he might, so he kind of could be?
There you go. That's what might means, right? Kind of could be.
Now, in all fairness, The Athletic did put out a piece kind of breaking down all the wings in this draft. They highlighted Keegan Murray and said the Golden State Warriors have had reps at like everything he's been doing. That it seems like the Warriors would love the opportunity to have Keegan Murray on the team. Of course, they don't necessarily have the assets to do it. The next line, owner Vivek Ranadive is also said to be a proponent of selecting him. Cool. I mean, I guess he wanted Mark Jackson at one point too. The reality is this has to be Monte McNair's call.
Yeah, I was like, where's Monty's name in that?
That's what I wanted to circle back to.
Okay.
There's no intel here.
No.
They don't really know what Monte McNair wants to do here. And I think, yeah, this is the point in which, you know, agents are going to start pushing a little bit. You know, when media members start pushing, they're trying to dig. I mean, you hear even like our guy James Ham upset that the Kings haven't had like media draft workouts. Like people are kind of irritated covering because they want to know what's going on, right? But
transparency, access.
As far as a player not wanting, or I was trying to say not wanting to, not a preferred destination. We've heard that a lot over the years in Sacramento. I don't love hearing that because it's just the reputation of Sacramento. And let's be honest about it. If you're an agent of one of these top draft picks, you have seen the cycle in Sacramento. You've seen multiple coaching changes, front office changes.
Being told something and then it not happening. Yes, that happens everywhere in the world, but yes.
You want to get your client in the best possible scenario. And I'm sure there's that angle. And it's also probably a little bit of fit where it's like, wait, my client Tyrese Halliburton didn't really fit there with De'Aaron Fox. They traded him. They're going to draft Jaden Ivey? There's another guard? So I get all that. I guess my whole point to reading all this morning is not really worried about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what happens on draft night, but I just, nothing really jumped out to me. What did you take away from what I just read?
That's what keeps happening, right? Like, I think from every mock draft, from every report, nothing's really standing out as like, that is groundbreaking. That is something that we need to know. When I love seeing anything new, but I think it's like you said, I think everyone's reaching for something new, which, by the way, I would never want to be a journalist, a reporter, any of those things, right? I don't want to break news. I don't want to do any of those things. And these people that do that are looking for things. So they're trying to do their job without reporting anything false, and they're searching. They're reaching.
And I think there's a line at the end that some Kings fans say, oh, Vivek might want Keegan Murray.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any secret out there that the Kings would probably be interested in Keegan Murray. Now, the reality is, are they willing to take someone like him at 4? When I read that, and I'm not, again, I don't want to take too much away from this piece.
Okay.
But when I read that, to me, it sounds like Jaden Ivey's people like think the Kings are drafting Jaden Ivey, and they're putting a last-stitch public pressure to trade the pick. It's not his preferred destination. We're putting it out there.
Even if that's the case, and I'm excited to talk to Bryant West even about this, because seeing that Lou Dort name was like, ooh, that was a little bit exciting. If you could get like a piece and a pick and a really
well, because it would be Oklahoma City's like 12th pick. You're gonna move down to 12
and get Lou Dort.
I like Lou Dort, but the Kings need defensively, sure, but from a shooting perspective,
on and off.
I would like Lou Dort on the Kings, just not in this situation, especially with his contract situation. He could like opt out in the future. So
another undersized guy. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I would like him on the Kings, just not at that price.
It's so tough.
Let's stop wasting time and bring in. I should actually have to admit him first. Oh, he's not here. Okay. He'll come back soon. Bryant West was there on our Zoom feed, and then he dipped out. See, Morgan, you went to him early. That's on you.
I was just excited to talk to him because I wanted to ask him about.
Just say my bad.
No,
Could you say my bad?
No.
He'll be joining us in just a second. Actually, he's here now. Let's welcome him in. Yes. You see his work on the Kings Herald, Kings Pulse, and he is one of those guys that does so much homework on the NBA draft. We like talking to him every year. He's the one and only Bryant West. How you doing, man?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you being on with us. And we should also mention this.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Just the Kings Herald's draft analyst. On draft night for our draft watch party, Bryant West will be our draft analyst for our coverage.
Yay!
That night.
Yay!
Give me a hell yeah.
We're
Hell
partying
yeah.
with Bryant West. I'm so excited that we're going to do this with you. So thank you so much for not only hopping on today and be willing to party with us for hours on draft night.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's an honor to join you guys on the best sports night in my opinion. So looking forward to it.
Hell yeah. Well, hopefully the best sports night in the future won't be drafts, and it'll be like playoff games or championships. But well, what was your first reaction to what Jonathan Givony had to report about the Kings and Jaden Ivey today?
Well, it's that time of year where every rumor that we like is trusted intel, and every intel that we don't like is just a rumor. So it's really hard to take anything at face value right now. On the surface, he really covered all his bases. They'll take Jaden Ivey unless they trade down, unless they just take Keegan Murray. Then he just threw the words Vivek wants in there. Like, this whole thing just read like Givony sat down and played Mad Libs with the Sacramento Kings draft strategy. So who the heck knows? I'm not going to take anything that I read too seriously. But I agreed with his final pick. I think Jaden Ivey is the guy I would take at number 4, assuming the rest of the draft goes as expected. So at the end of the day, hey, he ended up picking the guy I would have taken.
So then why do you think he's the right guy for Sacramento?
Yeah. There's definitely some complexity with Jaden Ivey, more so than most best players available, in a normal conversation year. But his ability to score at the rim, his athleticism, his insane quickness, his whole skill set is just excellent for a combo guard. And he showed he was able to break down defenses all season long at Purdue. He showed huge improvements in his deep shooting from his freshman to sophomore year. And most importantly for Sacramento, especially in the context of the existing guards they have on this roster, he showed that he has a ton of off-ball skills that would really make me excited to see him alongside De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell. He was an efficient catch and shoot shooter on good volume. He was dangerous as a scorer off of screens and off cuts to the basket. I really do feel like, we always see these guards, these electric guards, and think, man, they're going to need the ball in their hands to be effective. No, there were plenty of times at Purdue where he really showed, and the team was built around him to do so, that he could play off of the ball. So I think he'd be a good fit in Sacramento, assuming that his shooting continues to improve.
Yeah, I'm super intrigued by him. I'm very curious to see how fast he could have an impact if the Kings drafted him. Like, is he a guy year one that can impact things? I'm not totally sure on that. I think there's definitely some issues defensively, but I also see the defensive potential. Like, you just see the elite athleticism, his ability, even when he takes weird routes around screens, he can recover sometimes because he is so athletic. He's long. He could block some shots. How do you view him, like, day one? Do you think he could impact the Kings year one in the NBA?
I think he will definitely be an impact player pretty early in his career on offense. I agree with you, though. The concern is the defense, just because he had his highlights, for sure.
Yeah, for
there
sure.
were moments where he was absolutely engaged. He shadowed guys well. He showed up in big moments with some big defensive plays, but on the whole, I think the word I just keep coming back to is inconsistent on defense. And that's a scary word for Sacramento.
Yes.
It's a really scary word. He has the tools, but we've said that for years about players on the Kings. They've got the tools. Why aren't they putting it together? I think one thing is, I've been listening to quite a few of his draft interviews, and he always mentions defense pretty early on there. So he knows this is a weakness. And I'm sure you guys saw that he said he's been watching Davion Mitchell defensive tape to help him get better there. So what better way for him to get better on defense than to be working with Davion Mitchell?
Mike Brown.
Yeah. At the end of the day, he's not going to be a guy I'm expecting to come in and make a huge two-way impact, but first couple of months, maybe he's coming off the bench, leading the second unit offense, then just gets more and more responsibilities. At the end of the day, I think that unless one of Jabari Smith Jr., Chet Holmgren, or Paulo Banchero is the one that falls to 4, Jaden Ivey's got the best star upside left in the draft, in my opinion. And he's the pretty easy selection in my book.
Yeah. So do you think there's any chance that he could be a top 3 pick still then?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of weird that we've all gravitated to him being the 4th pick, because, so much of this is there's 4 guys here. All of them have a real case to be in that top 3, maybe even a real case to be in that top 2. One of them's going to go 4, but I don't necessarily think of that as an insult to any one of those players. Is it possible that Oklahoma City or Houston says, no, we think Jaden Ivey's the best player? Absolutely. It's just, if I'm going to bet on it, I would think that all of those teams probably go the forwards and bigs. But heck, Jaden Ivey may not even be on the board when the Sacramento Kings are selected. So
That'd be interesting. I mean, you're right. We spend so much time, looking at these mock drafts, and we take it as like, hey, this is what it's going to be. Shit changes every year.
Yeah.
In the NBA draft. So there's always some sneaky thing that changes last second. Last year, you think about Scotty Barnes as a Jalen Suggs dynamic that changed with Toronto. With Jaden, what's your biggest long-term concerns about his game?
Well, it would be the defense. I think there are some things on offense that I definitely want to see him improve early in his career. He was pretty inconsistent as a playmaker. It was the same kind of thing with his defense. He'd have these passes where, wow, that was an incredible pass. How did he see that lane open up? And then he just miss really obvious ones, or just, his decision-making, especially in the NCAA tournament loss to St. Peter's, was pretty bad. The other thing is that he is a two-way scorer at this point, or two-level scorer at this point. He either gets to the basket, and he can do that with incredible efficiency, or he's taking three-point shots. He doesn't have any real in-between game. And as De'Aaron Fox has shown us, there's nothing more valuable for a guy with those athletic tools to develop some sort of mid-range, a floater, a runner, something like that. That's just going to keep the defenses on their back foot and trust that, hey, he's not just going to get to the basket. So I think those are both kind of low-hanging fruits for him. He can improve on both of those, but I wouldn't want to draft him and expect that, hey, he's going to be the point guard of my future. He's not going to be the primary initiator. I think he's going to be best as a combo guard next to really good playmakers. And fortunately for Sacramento, they've got two of those already.
Yeah, and I mean, Ivy played with a big guy who could pass the ball really well in college. And you think about the potential there with Sabonis. And I think that, looking at the fit, everyone talks about the fit with Ivy. There's some clunkiness there. If the shooting is not one, you need Fox to be more consistent shooting. Hopefully Sabonis is able to stretch the floor a little more this year, and then Ivy has to prove that he can shoot at the NBA level. So there's some spacing things for sure. But if Fox does improve and Sabonis does improve, you think about Sabonis's ability to move the ball, the potential of that Fox-Sabonis pick and roll, and what Ivy could do off of that. It's pretty intriguing.
Yeah. But Bryant too, and with that, because it's you also have to have the will, the determination, the basketball IQ to understand when to cut and, how to get better at things, especially on the defensive end. And I guess sometimes I get all caught up in the potential, even though that's what the draft is all about, right? In all these guys, we're looking at the potential. But with Jaden Ivey, because everyone's not so sure that right away his defense obviously is going to be where it needs to be. How do you feel about him mentally getting to those places with his cutting and the will to get better on defense and everything?
Well, I'm not so much worried about the off-ball skills because that really was a big role that he played at Purdue. He really did get used to playing next to other ball handlers. Defense, though, I was on the Kings Herald show with Jerry Reynolds the other night, and Jerry Reynolds pointed out Matt Painter is one of the best defensive coaches out there. And if he couldn't get Jaden Ivey dedicated on defense, that is definitely a little concerning. It wouldn't be easy for Mike Brown. I'm sure that, there's something in the back of Mike Brown's head boy, I'm coming to one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and they're really going to draft another guy with defensive question marks. But at the end of the day, there's so much in the draft that there's not going to be a player that fixes everything. And at the end of the day, I'm always just going to lean toward the guy who I think has the best all-around potential, the best prospect. And for me, Jaden Ivey's complex. Jaden Ivey may not reach his ceiling here in Sacramento. The fit complications alongside a guy very similar to him in De'Aaron Fox. Yep. Davion Mitchell's going to demand playing time. It's not super clean, and there's definitely some realm of thought thinking, how are we going to take a guy based on potential when we're not maybe putting him in the best position to reach that potential? I can understand that argument. At the end of the day, I'm still going to take the talent. The Kings don't have that many chances to swing for the stars like this. I think Jaden Ivey can be that guy.
Yeah, you don't get that many chances to move up in the draft lottery. We've seen that in recent years. The one time they did, they kind of had that thought process with Luka and Fox. Can they work together? And they decide, let's not go with Luka. We know how that turned out. I don't necessarily look at this Ivy thing as a Luka Bagley situation at all.
Definitely not.
Luka to me was he's going to be good. I know it. Ivy, like you said, it's definitely complex for sure. And you could see why maybe his reps would be hey, it's probably not our preferred destination. We like somewhere where he could, have a significant role from day one, as opposed to a situation in Sacramento where you got Sabonis with the ball, Fox with the ball, Davion. It isn't the cleanest. And I think that's the other thing with Sacramento it's so tough to figure out is because of the layers here, right?
Yeah.
The Monty McNair going into the final year of his contract, this whole notion they got to make the playoffs next year. And okay, well, does that change his thinking? I feel like the last two drafts, Monty went with who he thought was the best guy available there. I don't know if his thinking changes because of
contract.
and the pressure to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would sure hope it doesn't change anything.
It shouldn't.
I would sure hope not. And at the end of the day, if Monty McNair comes out of this draft and Jaden Ivey was sitting there at 4 and he goes in another direction, like, you just have to respect it, because as much as I think this is a top 4 draft, I just would like to see them take whichever one of the 4 guys falls to them. There are guys who fit this team very well, who absolutely could be one of the top 5 players in this draft class in a couple of years, and who may not be quite as risky from a potential aspect or a fit aspect as Jaden Ivey. So it's easy for me to sit here and say, yeah, just take Jaden Ivey and figure it out later, but it's not that easy when, it's your job on the line.
Right. Before we move on to some other guys too, I just think about this position that they're in. How would you feel if the Kings were to trade down, look for an already established NBA player with it? Again, I'm not going to give you the exact scenario, but how would you feel about that situation?
At the end of the day, my preference is, again, just to take one of those top 4 guys. But if Monty McNair has somebody in that 5 to 9 or 10 range that he definitely thinks is as good or is a significantly better fit, I would prefer to see him trade down, get additional assets, rather than just take that guy at 4. But that's also might just be outsmarting themselves in a way. Like, at the end of the day, I bet a bunch of Toronto fans last year said the same thing. If you're going to take Scotty Barnes, trade down, make somebody pay up for Jalen Suggs. And I don't necessarily think that I like anybody in this draft classes like from the 5 to 10 range as much as I like Scotty Barnes. So I don't think that's a direct comparison. But, trading down is my preference, but there's also a risk of just outsmarting yourself there.
Well, let's get to the next guy that they've been tied to with mini mock drafts, and that's Keegan Murray. And he's a guy I like a lot. Watching him, I think the biggest takeaway, and it could be unfair. I'm not Mike Schmitz here, okay? Let me just acknowledge that for a second. I probably could be if I spent that much time on it. I mean, it's fair, right? But he doesn't strike me as a guy that's ever going to be like a number 1 option. He just looks like, to me, I think he would help the Kings next year.
Okay.
And I think he is going to be a very good player in this league. I don't see necessarily an all-star there. I don't see a star, but I see a guy who has great size, has a great feel for the game, IQ. What intrigues you about Keegan Murray as a prospect at the next level?
Well, I agree with everything you just said there. He would undoubtedly help them, the Kings or any lottery team on both ends of the court. He's just so versatile, so composed, a great shooter, scored 23.5 points a game when Big Ten defenses were pretty much only focused on him every night. It's just impossible to undersell his consistency, his motor, his approach to the game. And given their reliance on him offensively, it's amazing that he also had 1.3 steals and 1.9 blocks a game. You don't see dudes with those level of two-way numbers very often. He was one of my favorite players at pick number 7. And he's a really solid fit with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. Like you said, he's probably going to be ready for day 1. If I had to bet on anybody in the Kings conversation to be a starter from day 1, it's Keegan Murray. And he has less swing skills than anybody else we're going to discuss. That said, I'm like you. I don't project him as a franchise-altering talent. I'm not confident in his ability to create offense for himself at the NBA level as much as he did in college, unless he becomes a way better pull-up shooter than he was at Iowa. I think his defensive stats may also make him seem like a game changer on that end of the court, but in reality, I think he's more a good piece of a solid defense.
Yeah.
I think he's a lock to be a good role player, but one with clear limitations on both ends of the ball. And that's not normally the kind of guy that you go for at 4.
Is that why he's below Ivy on your list? Because, you know, you made him sound so amazing with like this first year fit and everything.
Look, I feel like that's what we talk. Every time I talk about Keegan, I go, man, I actually really do like him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it goes to. Like Ivy, probably he has things that you can't teach.
Yeah,
right? You can't teach that level of athleticism, the speed, just the frame. There's a lot to like there. What? But does Keegan have some ups? I mean, he's gotten better too. I think to be fair, like look at the jump he made at Iowa. Who's to say he can't be better at the next level?
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. To answer your question first, Mo, if the Kings were sitting at 5, I would be championing Keegan Murray as the is either the obvious pick or the best of the obvious picks. But there is a difference when I truly consider this class to be 4 stars and a bunch of more harder to project role players with significant upside. And like you said, he's going to be ready from day one. He does have some upside on offense that I don't think was properly utilized at Iowa. If he comes into the game and he's an incredible catch and shoot 3-point guy, to me, the clear swing skill is his off the dribble jumper. If he comes in there and suddenly he's taken that multiple times a game and he's still hitting at a 38 to 40% clip, like we could be talking about a guy who's the third option in a really good offensive team. But so much of his game at Iowa was very good for a college system and makes me worried that it won't translate to the NBA quite so much. Like he was good at attacking the basket from the perimeter, but he doesn't have a great first step. And I struggle to look at his handle and think he's going to beat NBA small forwards off the dribble. And he had a lot of post game in the post where he's got good touch, good footwork, but he's also 6'8", and is an NBA team really going to ask him to do it anywhere near as much as he did at Iowa? So it's kind of tough to watch the highlights and think that's going to translate. His shot will translate. I have no doubt about that. But the next evolution of his game may look different than it did at Iowa.
Man, this is so hard. And
I know.
You know, the other thing I was doing yesterday, I went back and looked at that 2012 NBA mock drafts.
Why?
Because I was just like, let's just look at what 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's good to kind of reflect. I mean, we've had 10 years to look at
sad,
this. And it's just funny. We all, and we all do this, all right? From fans, we all look at these mock drafts and it's like, we're so focused on the guys in the order that we do sleep on guys. I mean, people were hyping Thomas Robinson. Like at one point,
I was one of them.
He was
one of them.
He was supposed to be a number 2 pick. And then, he ends up dropping to 5 to Sacramento. Kings are like, oh shit, we really love Damian Lillard. He killed our pre-draft workouts. But Robinson was supposed to go too, so we got to take him. And obviously that didn't work out quite too well as he played like 50-something games and the Maloofs were cheap and traded him to Houston to save some money in a Patrick Patterson deal. But
thank you.
Yeah, it's just wild to think back. We do spend so much time on these mock drafts and really you just don't. Who knows? But I do think someone like Keegan Murray is not someone that you go, he's going to be a bust. He's going to be a good player in the league, I think.
Yeah. He's probably the least bustable player in the top 5 to me. But like you said, the most important thing here is that everybody's going to be wrong. NBA GMs are going to be wrong. Scouts are going to be wrong. Armchair scouts are going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong. Fans are going to be wrong. Difference is that it's not our jobs on the line. So
yeah, exactly.
How great is that? And that's why this next guy I want to talk about. I mean, talk about a risk. Shaedon Sharpe. And one, how much have you really seen of his game? I'm sure enough to give us a breakdown. But 2, is that like the riskiest direction you can go for the Sacramento Kings if for some reason he was there at 4 and they wanted him? Well, he
absolutely.
At 4.
Absolutely. Like he's the ultimate lottery ticket. I see why fans are high on him, and I know why some are so worried. His tools, his athleticism, that pull-up shot, his effortless dunking ability, like he looks like a scoring star. There are very few players at his age with that quick a pull-up, and so few of them have his balance and athleticism to go with it. But so much more of his game is just up in the air and is really hard to see from, high school tape that's a year old at this point, without a season of either NCAA play or G League tape to confirm it. Like, how solid is his deep shot over the course of a full season? How is his defensive approach and awareness outside of high school? Is his handle strong enough to get him buckets at the rim in the half court? How is he going to handle physical defenders in big game moments? Like, NBA squads have way more evidence to answer all of those questions than we do. But personally, Sharp is too risky a pick in my book for the Kings.
Okay.
If Monty McNair disagrees, though, like, and he drafts Sharp with everything that's on the line this season, like, that's going to say so much about his confidence in Shaedon Sharp's potential stardom that I'm just going to have to respect it and be excited for it.
Let's talk about some trade down targets, because that's the one thing with Sacramento. It seems like there's not one reporter out there who has gotten any sense of what they could do. We've heard everything. Hey, I'm telling you, the Kings could look to trade up. They could trade down. Hey, they may stand put. It's like, yeah, we know. Okay, all those options are on the table. Thank you. Every team has that option every single year. So let's talk about the potential of trading down, moving a few spots down. Who are some trade down targets? We know that they at least planned on working out Dyson Daniels. Baylor's Jeremy Sochan. Is it Sochan, by the way? Is that how you say it?
Sochan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sochan, I just want to make sure I'm getting names right. Worked out for the Kings as well. Maybe your thoughts on those two, and who are some other guys that you could be looking at or interested in if they move down?
Well, I know you guys saw one of Dyson Daniels' best games in the G League last year. My goodness. I watched that this morning, and holy cow. He would be a very solid trade down target. I know that there are a lot of smart Kings fans out there who are really excited about him. One of the better wing defender prospects in a while. Good size for that role, great wingspan, excellent quickness, can move laterally and read his opponent's moves pretty well. Had nearly 2 steals a game. He's got the mindset and the physicality to be an excellent defender at the next level. And he matched up defensively with a ton of talent down in the G League, and he handled himself pretty dang well against big time prospects. He's also an excellent playmaker for his size, 4.5 assists per game. He can see the court very well. I hesitate to say that I think he's got the scoring talent to be a primary playmaker or to, be this big time scorer, but he certainly could become another good passer on a really good passing team. Deep shot's a question, shot under 30% over the year, showed some real improvement later in the year. His mechanics, at least off the catch and shoot, look pretty good. So there's hope there. He just really needs that shot to be quite as versatile as the rest of his game indicates. So I'm swiping this comparison from Nathaniel Miller, but his combo of size, defensive tenacity, playmaking, and sheer toughness. I mean, is that not Doug Christie in the modern game?
Ooh.
Yeah, I would say Doug was, especially coming out of college, a really solid scorer.
Yeah.
I mean, if
that was
when he
his
first
role.
came into the league, he was more known for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Dyson, I really like him, and
Versatile.
I think the other thing that jumped out to me is when at the combine they're like, yeah, he's 6'8" now. I'm like, whoa, okay. He grew a little bit now, and now it's even more intriguing.
You talk about his shooting mechanics, like his shot is pretty. Like he has a good looking shot. It always seems to be pretty much the same, squared shoulders, his feet, everything looks good. And if that can improve, I mean, I feel like out of everything, if you think about even his mindset and where he is as such a young player, I feel like that can just get better and better.
Yeah. Yeah. And he seems to be an aware young kid who knows what he needs to work on. Like he gave it every moment that he was on the court for the G League there.
Yeah.
And you can't say the same about everybody who goes to the Ignite program. So, and as for Jeremy Sochan, like he's kind of the opposite in terms of pretty shooting mechanics. Like his shot is really the only big question I have for him, which is kind of weird to say for an 18-year-old. I mean, we all know the value of gritty, defensively minded Baylor Bears players, don't we?
Yeah.
Like, and it says something that Scott Drew had a ton of returning veterans from last year's title team, and he still ended up playing an 18-year-old freshman 25 minutes a game. Jeremy is an ideal project player for this Kings team because he offers them, positional upside that they haven't had in a long time. Really, really good defensive prospect, handled everyone from guards to bigs at the college level, and he did it really well. Excellent quickness and mobility for his size, tough and physical rebounder, good playmaker, another good. I think just looking at the guys that they have talked to, they kind of have a player type they're targeting if they're going to trade down. These gritty defenders who can really play a strong role next to De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, and Mitchell. So I personally still circle back to, I don't know that there is a trade that would make me want to trade down out of the top four, but heck, there's a lot of talent. I'm staring at my big board trying to figure out who I'm going to make go from 7 to 14. This is a really hard group because everybody here has a real case to be in that top 10.
It feels a little similar to last year's draft in that way, right? Where like it seemed like 7 to 14 last year. I mean, you saw mock drafts all over the place. You had Moses Moody maybe going 7 to the Warriors. He ends up going to the Warriors with that second first-round pick. Real fast, too, you mentioned Nathaniel Miller. I do want to give him a shout-out, too. This guy, he puts in so much work to these NBA draft thing. I saw the same thing he put together. He had comps for every player. I mean, he dives deep. He's obsessed with it. I don't understand how he has this much time, but this guy has big opinions on second-round draft talent. I'm like, he does his homework. It's impressive.
Yeah.
So shout out to him.
He does his homework in a way that few people do. So everybody should go follow him. Journalist Nate on Twitter.
Journalist Nate on Twitter. I do follow him too. AJ Griffin.
That's the one I want to ask.
One of the youngest I think he might be one of the youngest prospects in the draft, if not the youngest. I can't remember.
Okay.
But,
second youngest in the lottery.
Okay. So second youngest in the lottery and went to Duke. Slow start because of the knee injuries. And I think that's probably the biggest thing people are questioning at this point, right? Is you see him at draft workouts. He's got the knees wrapped and all that. But a guy who it seems like he's tough and he could shoot the rock. What do you see in his game?
Yeah, he's been one of my favorites in this class for a while. He's one of the best shooters in recent drafts, honestly. 44.7% from three, shot 45% on all catch and shoot shots. Incredibly efficient. You just go down the line. He was such an incredibly efficient shooter. He was mostly used as a catch and shoot guy for Duke this year, which wasn't surprising given their spacing, but he also had some really impressive pull-up creation shots in the mid-range and at the rim. The rest of his game is less complete. Like, he's a very slow-footed player at this stage. And while he was a determined high motor defender, I think more than some of the other guards in this range, he was pretty poor on defense overall, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So while I think he can come in and provide shooting help immediately, the rest of his game may be more of a project than I think the Kings are willing to take. But like you said, he was coming off some injuries. He was raised in New York, so he didn't even get to play his senior year of college because of COVID. So he really did miss a lot of time in terms of development. So he might be behind the 8 ball in that aspect in terms of just figuring out all that kind of stuff. But man, his motor and his shooting ability, I honestly think if he goes to a patient squad that helps him figure out, okay, you got to get better on defense, helps him get in a weight room to figure out the right balancing act between his massive muscle increase and flexibility to guard dudes at his position. Like, I think there's a real chance that he's the surprise star that we should have all seen coming.
And his dad, former NBA player, now Raptors assistant coach Adrian Griffith. So obviously a guy that, has been around a coach, just like Jaden Ivey, his mom, the head coach at Notre Dame.
Right.
Jabari Smith, his dad, of course, played in the league.
Sometimes people don't give enough credit to not only one, if you have a parent or relationships around the league, but then that's why I do look at G League Ignite and even someone like Dyson Daniels and just last year with Jalen Green and everything, and the benefits of being around it and being around at that level and truly understanding on and off the court what it's going to take and seeing the game keep evolving. So for him too, it's just like the health and his knees and everything. Do you think that's going to be something that just keeps teams afraid of going for him?
It certainly could. He's had enough of those to, raise red flags. I'm not a doctor, and I would hope that his camp has really been forthcoming with all of his medical records, because that's the only way that teams are going to be confident drafting him in the top 10. But at the same point, I've heard some people who watched him in high school say, like, some of those injuries, like guys who were trying to prove themselves may have come back earlier, but his dad's an NBA assistant coach. He knows the long game here. He knows the value of having a young player stay healthy. So, it didn't always show up on Duke. He certainly had a slow start because of a preseason knee injury, but like he went through the whole season without another ailment. So
that's the biggest thing. He was able to play the rest of the way. Once he came back, it's not like he had any weird setbacks where he's missing games. So that's obviously something to look at. Are there any other trade down targets for you personally that jump out that you'd be like, I'd be interested in him? I don't know if Mathurin. Is it Mathurin? Mathurin.
I think I would rather have Griffin or Dyson Daniels, just because I like the two-way they flash more. But Mathurin is a favorite for a lot of people for good reason. Like, he's probably the most complete three-way scorer in the top 10 besides Paulo Banchero. So they could definitely look to trade down for him. He's got a shooting guard play style in a more of a wing body, so he'd fit some needs for the Kings. Honestly, I want to see them trade up. My dream scenario is for them to trade up.
Let's talk about it.
This is what I want to talk, because I was going to ask. It was going to be like, okay, if you could have anyone in this draft, like, who is your favorite player in this draft? And I'm sure that's where you're going with this. So who the hell is that?
I told Deuce this in January. It's Jabari Smith Jr.
Okay.
Like, I've always been high on him. He would be, to me, the best fit for Sacramento. And I don't necessarily think that for a lot of other teams. Like, I don't necessarily think Orlando should take him. Orlando needs a different player than Jabari Smith Jr. In my book. They should look at Paulo Banchero if they're looking for a primary initiator. But Jabari Smith fits the Kings so well just because he is the best shooter that I've ever scouted at his size.
Wow.
6'10", dude. Like, you can't build a better shooter at his size. 41.4% on all catch and shoot shots, 42% on 5.5 3-pointers a game. A very quick defender who can guard the perimeter and has potential to, in a couple of years, be really good at guarding big men. Like, he's more of a project player in some aspects than a normal number one overall pick would be, but I look at his shooting at his age, 18 years old, not going to be 19 until the season starts. And I just think he's got the hardest part figured out. Why don't I absolutely trust that he's going to figure the rest of his game out.
Well, let's talk about this top three for a second.
Yeah, now I just want to trade up. Brian has me all excited to trade up just from that.
I've been on the trade up thing too a little bit, but like, it seems like everyone's assuming Jabari's going one, but there is a lot of talk about Chet one still. Right. And then there was a picture. Again, I'm way too deep in this.
God.
Our Discord sometimes is crazy with people sharing things. But there was a picture of Sam Presti and Jabari Smith hanging out. So, they're doing their due diligence there. There's been some talk. Banchero was spotted in Oklahoma City too. I just don't envision a scenario where they could trade up to one, but who knows? I don't, I keep eyeing number 2 with OKC, but that also scares the hell out of me because it's Sam Presti. You think about the other draft day trades that was pretty significant, that when Luka, the Dallas Atlanta deal, the Mavs ended up getting an additional first round pick the next year. I feel like that's what it would take. I don't know if it would take more than that, but you trade the 4th pick to move up, and maybe you'd have to give in like a top 3 protected first round next year.
Sam Presti loves a good protected pick.
So do you think that would get it done?
I don't necessarily believe that would get it done.
Yeah.
But if that's on the table, to me, the top 2 guys who are going to go in this class are the ones who fit the Sacramento Kings best and have the greatest upside on this team. Whether it's Jabari Smith, who I agree, there's no chance they'd get him if Orlando is locked in on him. The only chance they'd have is if Orlando took Chet Holmgren. But whether it's him or Chet Holmgren, I think that those 2 guys are both worth trading up for. Chet Holmgren is an ideal fit next to Sabonis. Like, I don't look at Chet Holmgren and think this guy's got to be a center. I think he should be playing next to a big-bodied center.
I agree.
Who can bang in the low post, who is, a really good rebounder, and let Chet be more of a perimeter-based offensive player. Really utilize that, he shot 39% from deep last year, and be more of a rim protector who handles smaller forwards on defense. I think Chet Holmgren's 2-way upside is probably the best in this draft. So, and given his and Jabari's fit in Sacramento, I really would like to see this be Monty McNair's next big gamble.
It would be obviously a big gamble, especially for Sacramento, for a couple of reasons. One, we mentioned Monty's contract situation. 2, you would need Chet to hopefully have an impact for you next year, which I think he could. But also 3, let's just play the worst case scenario here. It goes to shit. Sabonis says, I'm out. And then you don't have a pick.
And then Monty's out. And then there you go.
Tough,
You're back
but
in the same cycle.
So you're pushing all in a little bit there. Like, okay, I really believe this can be the group moving forward. We're not going to trip about this first round pick because it's top 3 protected. We don't plan on being in the lottery. Who cares? We got our guy. I like Chet too. I think also his ability to cut. He played with a good passing big guy at Gonzaga too. Go ahead.
You know why this whole scenario doesn't scare me, you guys? Because what the shit do you have to lose at this point? And I know even for him, it's like, I might lose my job. You might lose your job anyway. You just don't know. You don't know with this organization. You really don't know. So you might as well try and do every damn thing you can do to get what it's going to take to get the wins.
Yeah. My only issue with this conversation we're having right now is the fact that Bryant is not really giving me Banchero love, and I think Banchero is a stud who he's probably the favorite for Rookie of the Year next year.
Do some love.
No, I think he's great size. He's tough. He could score.
NBA ready. We know.
I love this guy.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I had a big write-up on him that came out yesterday on Kings Herald. I hear so many Kings fans overthinking Paulo Banchero, and is the fit as clean as Jabari Smith Jr. or Chet Holmgren? No. He's got some skill overlap with Sabonis that would be a little complex, but man, he's the class's best offensive prospect in my book. He has the best chance to be a good team's leading scorer and a primary playmaker. And at 6'10", that's special right there. His combo of strength, size, balance, and skill, that's just incredible in a dude that big. And his passing ability, he's what made Duke work. They had a really good passing team this year, but his ability to read the defenses, and they were always focused on him, and to punish those doubles that came at him, that made it work. Honestly, I don't like making big name comparisons because I always think it's unfair to these players.
Ready for this shit?
I'm ready for this shit. Let's go.
It's twinging a little bit back in my mind of 13-year-old Bryant watching Chris Webber.
Oh, stop it. My heart. Ugh.
Yeah.
Straight up, get that guy.
Yeah, you get him.
Go get him, Banchero.
I don't care what you have to do.
Yeah, and honestly, any one of those three guys comes to Sacramento, like, I'm going streaking. This is great.
Wait, let's note this down.
Wait, yes,
Going
please
streaking.
mark it down.
Just yeah, are you going to do that on the live stream?
No.
Well,
I'm gonna have to
I'll
ship
be a
that to-
professional until you guys hang up on me.
Look, we can just keep his face. We can keep it locked in on his face, blur things out, do what we got to do.
That'll be
so.
for the OnlyFans version of our NBA draft watch party. All right, Bryant. I hear what you want. You want them to move up, make a splash. Do you have a prediction of what you think they're going to do on draft night?
Yeah. I think that all this talk, everything that we've discussed, everything that all the experts and the mock draft people are writing about is just overthinking who Monty McNair is. Monty McNair is a guy who has twice in a row just drafted the best player available. So I think that's going to be Jaden Ivey.
Okay.
Jaden Ivey.
Well, clip that. Save it for draft night.
It's going to be fireworks. They're moving up. They're moving up.
Yeah.
I'm just putting out in the universe. Well, Bryant, seriously, thanks so much for the time. We're so excited to have you with us on draft night, as it could be chaotic. We're going to go to Bryant. When something happens, we got to get his breakdown of the guy. So it's going to be a lot of fun for our NBA draft watch party. He will be with us live, of course. You could check him out on the Kings Herald. He's with Brendan Nunes on the Kings Pulse podcast. You do a lot of different things, but we truly appreciate you hopping on with us today.
I appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
That's the one and only Bryant
Bryant.
West. Appreciate him coming on the Deuce and Mo podcast.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good at what he does. My goodness.
Very passionate, too. I dig it.
Yeah, like he got me excited about moving up. And again, I shouldn't get that excited
Hey,
because
moving up is risky.
it's so.
But this whole thing is
The
risky.
whole thing is risky, and who gives a damn? You live, you die, move on up, you know?
Shout out to everyone watching us live right now. I should mention this. If you're watching us live, the best thing you could do is get us well over 150 thumbs up. Let's get that going now. All it does is help our channel grow so more Kings and NBA fans all over the world watch us. We pop up on their feed like, hey, this is recommended. Should I click on that? Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should.
Algorithms, baby.
Yeah, very excited to have him as part of our NBA draft coverage. Of course, our NBA draft watch party. We're going to be on for the entire draft. We'll talk to him. We'll have hopefully some more surprises too throughout the night. We're going to have you covered. It's one of my favorite nights, free agency. It's just a lot of fun. You don't know what's going to happen. I'll never forget last year when Kings are out. Who are they going to pick? It's Moses Moody. Yeah. Davion Mitchell. And we were stunned.
We were stunned because we only knew so little about him because we were doing so much work on the other guys. And then when it was him, he didn't even look excited.
Well, that's the other thing. Well, yeah. I remember watching his press conference going, oh, no.
This guy.
Does he want to be here? And of course, now like Davion's like a fan favorite.
Amazing.
He was on our podcast. It was awesome to talk to. The one guy that we have not spent really any time talking about is Jabari Smith because we're like, he's going one. But that's probably what's going to happen. You realize that's going to happen now.
Maybe.
We're not going to be ready for draft now. We're going to be like, hey, he's going one. And then the Kings are going to move up and get him.
I think next week for some of our podcasts, what
Yeah.
we'll do like, we'll watch a game at 9 on Twitch, and then we'll go live on Twitch and YouTube at 10 like we always do Monday through Wednesday and talk about that draft prospect and what we actually see from that guy as well. Because that's fun. It's fun to chat with all of you and hear what you have to say about some of these guys as well. Even if you've only seen some highlights, I just love hearing what fans, what media, what gurus love saying about these guys. It's a fun time.
One person I think that's going to hop on with us at some point on draft night is our 16-year-old NBA draft insider, Praneel.
No.
Well, I mean, the guy,
Did you even ask him?
I said you should hop on with us, but I'm going to put it out there. He should be on with us, and
That's sweet.
no, I'm telling you, he knows so much.
I read some of his stuff.
No,
Oh,
Morgan,
okay.
it's not just what he writes.
Okay.
The guy has energy. He's got charisma. He
Wow, a
could be
16-year-old with
the
all
best basketball mind, the future basketball mind.
So he's our number one pick. Is that what you're saying?
I'm drafting him because
Okay.
he'll probably work in the NBA front office at some point.
Okay, we'll
Watches
take him.
a lot of basketball.
With the number one pick, do some more. Take a 16-year-old.
We're going to have you covered from Bryant West to other surprises and maybe a 16-year-old draft expert. I think that sounds fun. We've got much more coming up on the podcast, but we should mention that today's podcast presented by our friends over at East Sac Fitness.
Thank you, ESAC Fitness. Thank you, because I am just like really starting to get my weights on again. And every day I'm 30 minutes in and I go straight to the recovery room to go into the sauna because I am just dying. I am sore, but I'm so appreciative for my health and ESAC Fit getting me back on the right track.
Of course, most I suffered a lower back strain about 8-9 days ago. Back to the gym the last few days. Whoa, just take it easy. You're right. I'm taking it easy. I'm going stretching. Then I'm hopping on the stairs there. Then I'm hopping on the Echo bike.
Wow.
Doing sprints. They got everything you could possibly want. Functional fitness classes, yoga classes, spin classes, the recovery room. Check them out, esacfitness.com. We're also presented today by Joey Reagan over at Lion Real Estate. If you are looking for a house, especially in the Sacramento area, Joey's the guy to talk to. Hit him up today. He will guide you, help you find the right house, the house of your dreams.
He's already helped some of our listeners. He's already helped some other people around Sacramento too. What, Deuce? You got something?
He helped one of our podcast listeners move from Jersey to Sacramento.
Yeah. So seriously, Joey's so easy to talk to. He loves doing what he does. Just make sure to reach out to him. You can talk to him about anything. He's also a Kings fan, so he knows what it's like to go through some of that misery. So make sure you reach out to Joey if you're looking to buy or sell your home. Like I said, so easy to talk to, so easy to work with.
Go to his website, jreagan.golion.com. You can also call or text him, 916-412-4592. That's license number 02128070. Also presented today by our friends over at Seasons Coffee Roasters. Oh, Deuce, what are you sipping on right now? I'm glad you asked. A little bit of Seasons Coffee Roasters. What I love about them, it's local. I'm kind of a coffee snob. I know what good coffee
You
tastes
are a
like.
coffee snob.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I can't tell you the notes, but I could tell you, hey, this tastes good. This tastes bad.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Deuce Mason go, can I get a venti frappuccino, blah, blah, blah. Starbucks is crap.
Oh my God. Be nice to everyone, but you're right. Seasons Coffee is way better.
So go to seasonscoffeeroasters.com and you can order online, get beans delivered right to your house, or their Bold Crew coffee. The cold brew is so good. Check them out, seasonscoffeeroasters.com. Use promo code DeuceBags at checkout. That's DeuceBags at checkout. It saves you 10% off. That's Seasons Coffee Roasters, the official coffee roasters of the Deuce and Bo podcast. It's chat time. Should we see what the chat's talking about?
Time to shoot the shit. Let's go.
I want to talk about the chat. Talk to the chat. Someone says Joey and Mo look like twins.
Really? I mean, yeah, I guess when my
Joey's,
lashes aren't done, I kind of do look like a boy.
Joey's way better looking,
Okay.
right?
I mean, sure. A lot of people say that, and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. I don't care what you guys think of me. What I look like, I mean.
It was just me just saying that. It was just me.
I just
saying
put it
that.
out on everybody.
Adrian just puts in the chat.
What?
Jaden Sharp. Jaden Sharp. I don't know. I can't envision a scenario where the Kings take him F4. There's just no way. And maybe I'm gonna miss huge on that, but I feel like if they take Jaden Sharp, they're moving down for him. He's a guy that may drop a bit on draft night. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't even know, you guys. Like, literally the other day I was like, there's no way. I think it's going to be safe with Keegan Murray. And again, my thought process is influenced by mock drafts that come out, right? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably it. And then I talked to Bryant West, and it's like this Jaden Ivey talk that we've heard for so long now. And if he truly is the best player available right there at 4, yes, like that is the direction Monty McNair is going to go. That is the direction he went in the last 2 drafts.
Dr. Nesto says, who cares if Ivy wants to come to Sacramento? He doesn't get a choice, so we will have to suck it up and get to work. I hear what you're saying. Again, the report was from Jonathan Gaboni saying that Ivy's preferred destination is not Sacramento. So I don't look at that as he doesn't want to go to Sacramento. The story I'm always reminded of during this time is when you start hearing those type of stories come out about prospects is like, go back to Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Steph Curry did not want to go to the Golden State Warriors.
There you go. I mean,
he was hoping the Knicks were going to take him.
yeah. some of these guys are so young. It's really, again, they're just being influenced by their agents or by their people around them. But at the end of the day, when you don't have much of a choice, when you're a rookie and you're getting drafted, like, buy into the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, buy into what things can be. And I get it. When places have bad reputations, you're kind of like, shit, like, I have to try and be the hero, or I have to try and figure out things. Well, hopefully Sacramento can get looked at differently, especially with Mike Brown coming in. I mean, how many times the Kings have had a different head coach, but this head coach is coming from a team and an organization that is so well respected right now, especially with what they're doing in the finals.
Peyton says, what are your takes on the Kings media thing? Sean and James are pissed. Peyton, I'm guessing you're talking about how in previous years, the Kings have had draft workouts where the media is invited out, maybe to see the tail end of a workout of guys shooting around. Okay. And then they usher these prospects over to the media to answer some questions for 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, just a scrum.
Look, I get wanting to be a part of that, especially when you're in the content game and you want to be like, hey, they worked out this person, and you don't know who's coming in for workouts, who's really, you know, because there could be some that they haven't announced, people that they have worked out that they don't want to put out there. I mean, I get wanting to know if you're a reporter. At the same time, I don't think that influences anything. Like, I think Ham's point was like, you can drum up interest in the team if you have some of these guys. It's like, you know what, fans, the Kings fans, NBA fans, they're excited about the draft. Yeah. You know, I don't think it much matters who they're bringing in for workouts. I mean, it's good to know ahead of time. Like, they're working out all these guys. And if you look at the list of players that the Kings have worked out, it's a lot of guys that aren't necessarily ranked in the mock drafts. Like, there's some examples of players who are projected, but there's some not really. And some of that is they're trying to fill out their G League roster too. They're looking at future prospects for the Stockton Kings. They're looking at undrafted free agents that they can maybe sign, or late second round guys. There's so many different ways to go. I don't think it's that big a deal personally. I've been to so many draft workouts, and the only one that I feel like I gained anything from was going back to the year Steph Curry was drafted by the Warriors. The Kings had a workout that had Curry, Johnny Flynn, Tyreek Evans, Tony Douglas. I'm missing a couple. And the reason I won't forget is they allowed us to see a scrimmage happening. It was like a 3-on-3 scrimmage with some other prospects too. And I'm like, Tyreek Evans jumped out. Like, it was like, oh my God, this guy is just physical. He's got the good size. He could get in transition. But nowadays, you don't really get much of it. And then if you want to talk about being able to interview players after, okay. But more times than not, I've been there. Most reporters are asking questions like, so where are you going next for your workout? Well, where are you going next? How'd it go out there for you today? You're not getting much. And then,
but you can just tell though, they're if they're pissed, it's more of like they're passionate about what they do. They just you know, they just really, they want to be a part of it because they put in the work. And I get that. I understand that, but I also understand your explanation of it as well.
So are you on my side?
No, there's no sides to pick. It's not a black or white situation. It's truly like, hey, they're allowed to feel that way. They're passionate about what they do. You've also been around. You know what's funny? I haven't actually ever been at a pre-draft workout.
It's not that big of a deal.
Well, I know, and I've seen them, and I've been not in there, but around, and I'm like, I get it, though. I get it.
Nicholas says Juice has beef with James Ham. I'm convinced. No, I do not. I love Ham.
We love Ham.
Ham, I've known Ham for years. He's been on the podcast. We have great conversations.
That's why
games.
Deuce can talk shit about his fedora and everything.
I also like pushing back on things a little bit. It's like, what do we get out of a draft workout? I mean, it would be nice to, sure, if you could see every second of a player's draft workout, would I sign up to do that? Yeah. But you just don't get that great of access anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you say that, but for some people, that it's the principle, right? It's the principle of like, hey, I put in the work. I'm fair about, you know, like someone like Sean's like so fair about everything he reports and does. And he's just like, yo, I want this access too. That's it.
Yeah.
Respect.
Or he could like dress up as as
No.
an NBA player and sneak in and get right into it. Maybe you could participate. Dude, the fake Klay Thompson guy, I'm sure most of the people watching us live right now saw that, where years ago you saw the fake Klay Thompson like behind the Warriors bench.
Yeah.
Dude, the video, I could not believe that this guy shows up wearing like a full uniform, looking like Klay
Hoodie.
with the hood on. He goes through security, walks through. People are saying, "What's up, Klay?" Hey. Gets on the court before the game. Mind you, this is before an NBA Finals game. This isn't just some like summer league or so. Gets right through.
Yeah.
Is taking shots
On the court, you guys. Like, it is funny, and now he lost his $10,000 tickets. They wouldn't refund them, and he got banned for life, I think it was.
Yeah, can't go to the Chase Center.
Can't go to the Chase Center. And he's mad about it because he's like, what about the incompetent security guards? But really, I was telling Deuce about this. I'm like, do you think about all the times that security guards are like not wanting to question people that are so confidently saying that they're a player because they don't want to get in trouble either. So I get it, but at the same time now we're going to have situations where players and owners and so many other people are questioned if they don't have the correct credential. Or hopefully it is that way because you can't just do that shit.
Yeah. And he was saying, "Oh, we're trying to find the team store." Yeah, but you ended up on the court taking shots.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's also like kind of not funny at the same time because you don't want something bad to happen at an NBA game. But also he was doing it as like, "Hey, this is funny. I look like Klay Thompson, banned for life." Okay. I mean, here's the other thing I always say: he shaves his like goatee off or whatever he has.
No one's gonna know it's him.
It's not like they have like a list of people at the front where like, do not let this
Name,
guy in. Yeah.
Age.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like him.
Also, real fast chat. There's no James Ham beef. Can we stop with that?
Who's saying
Everyone's
that?
like, "Oh, Deuce, James Ham beef." Just because
They're
I
making a
disagree.
joke.
I just disagree. That's all.
Deuce literally would text James Ham right now and tell him he disagrees. Like, you guys, they're friends.
Stupid.
It's cute though.
Oh man, we are going to be back live for another podcast Thursday night following Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
We'll also be on playback watching the game. Got a big week ahead, and of course, if any breaking news happens, we will be live. We appreciate you guys hanging out today. We love you guys, but we gots to go.
You all have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you at Game 6. See ya!
Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo, Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know. Deuce and